Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
Action!
Welcome to From Beneath the Hollywood Sign. If you love old movies, Hollywood history, or the golden age of filmmaking, you've come to the right place. This is the podcast that talks about amazing stories of Tinseltown from another era. Hear fascinating conversations with writer-producer Steve Cubine, who quite literally lives just beneath the Hollywood sign, and actress-writer Nan McNamara. Now your hosts, Steve and Nan.
Welcome everyone to From Beneath the Hollywood Sign. Steve, I remember coming to Hollywood for the very first time. I was a senior in high school. I came with my dear friend, Patty Karen. That was our senior trip.
Ooh, how fun.
I know it. And I remember walking down Hollywood Boulevard and seeing those stars on the Walk of Fame.
Iconic. Yeah.
Have you ever been to a star ceremony?
Oh, you know what? I've been fortunate enough. I've been at two that I was invited to.
Okay.
And I've been to two that I just stumbled upon.
Okay.
But the stars were people I love so much that I stayed.
Oh, cool.
And the two that I was invited to were my really dear, dear friends, Allison Janney and Octavia Spencer.
Yes.
And the two that I just stumbled upon and just became like a tourist on the sidewalk was Leslie Caron.
Oh,
which was
my gosh.
Very
That's
cool.
Thrilling.
And then Linda Carter, Wonder Woman.
Wow.
So that was my experience with the Walk of Fame.
Well, I would imagine that it was very emotional to be friends with Allison and Octavia, and that's quite a moment for anybody.
It was, and you really sense that in them. You know, how special they knew this was, that, you know, their names will be in the fabric of Hollywood history forever.
Yes. Well, since its beginning in 1960, the Hollywood Boulevard Walk of Fame, it's been a perennial favorite for tourists who are eager to catch a glimpse of Hollywood stardom. With an estimated 10 million visitors strolling the boulevard each year to visit that 18-block stretch, the Walk of Fame, it not only celebrates the stars, but it allows fans an opportunity to pay homage to some of the greatest film, television, recording, and radio superstars of all time. So this week on From Beneath the Hollywood Sign, we're going to discuss the history of this iconic must-see and its evolution over the past 60-plus years.
Well, you know, the idea for the Hollywood Walk of Fame came about in 1953, and it was the brainchild of E.M. Stewart. Now, Stewart had served as the volunteer president of the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, and according to a chamber press release, he proposed the walk as a means to maintain the glory of a community whose name means glamour and excitement in the four corners of the world.
Well, Stewart appointed a committee to begin fleshing out this idea. The architectural firm of Pereira and Luckman was employed to develop some specific proposals for it. This was the architectural firm that designed a lot of Los Angeles's landmarks. The theme building at Los Angeles International Airport, CBS Television City, several of the J.W. Robinson stores, that kind of mid-century modern
very mid-century
design.
Modern. Loved it. Where the original idea for the Walk of Fame came about is not 100% certain. However, the ceiling of the dining room of the historic Hollywood Hotel once had stars painted on it for the names of celebrities. And many people think that that was the genesis of the idea to place stars on the sidewalks. Others claim that the inspiration was derived from the drink menu of the Tropics restaurant, which was owned by chamber member Harry Sugarman. The menu featured celebrity photos framed in gold stars. So take your pick.
Yeah. In 1955, the basic tenets of the proposal to create the walkway were agreed upon. So the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce proceeded to secure the necessary signatures to present to the city of Los Angeles for further action in the formation of what's called an assessment district, meaning they would define this geographic area, which would be levied or taxed, to finance specific public improvements or services that would benefit the properties within that district. So those plans were crystallized and submitted to the LA City Council in January of 1956. The council embraced the idea and instructed the Board of Public Works to prepare the engineering specifications and to create the necessary assessment district to pay for the improvements, which is sort of an interesting thing. You're sort of forcing everybody to pay money for what you want.
Exactly. Also in 1956, plans were progressing and various concepts of the design of the star were being reviewed.
Right.
Now, initially, it was proposed that the star be a caricature of the honoree with a backdrop of brown and blue sidewalks. Reportedly, a sample using John Wayne as a model was presented to the committee, but the committee realized that the caricatures would be too difficult to create. The original color scheme of the sidewalk was changed from brown and blue to black and coral. Some say because Hollywood businessman C.E. Toberman preferred black and coral to better complement a building he was erecting on Hollywood Boulevard. Toberman was the developer behind the Hollywood Bowl, the Chinese Theater, the Egyptian Theater, and many other landmarks. So you have to give him what he wants, right?
Yeah, right. He wants to change the colors, you change
the colors. Well, along with real estate developer H.J. Whitley, they're kind of considered the fathers of Hollywood.
Yeah. The design for the Walk of Fame plaque that was finally settled upon features a 5-point star set in a blend of terrazzo, colored coral pink, with a charcoal-colored background outlined in brass and listing the honoree's name in brass letters with a symbol indicating their designated star category.
In order to complete the project, the Chamber of Commerce created a separate organization called the Hollywood Improvement Association, which was headed by member Harry Sugarman, who we mentioned previously, who was a prominent businessman who oversaw the work.
The cost to build the Walk of Fame, which included new street lighting and street trees, because you have to beautify the whole area, was $1.25 million, which is about $14,696,000 in
Wow.
today's money. Divided by the property owners that were on Hollywood Boulevard, that amount worked out to be about $85 per foot, or almost $1,000 per foot today. So think about that.
Wow. In terms of real estate, yeah.
Yeah. Well, some of the business owners weren't very happy with that.
It's almost like the mob has come and
It
said,
kind of is.
you're
It's
going to pay
you
up.
have this assessment and you have, well, they sued. And this delayed the construction of the walk, but a judge eventually ruled against them. So I don't know who.
Interesting.
Yeah, who got to him, but.
Yeah. Well, from May of 1956 to the fall of 1957, 4 different committees worked on selecting the initial honorees in 4 different categories of the entertainment industry. There was motion picture, which was signified by the symbol of a camera. There was television, which of course was signified by a television set. Recording was signified by the symbol of a phonographic record, and radio was signified by the symbol of a microphone for radio.
The committee members, that original committee, it was a starry bunch of people, including Cecil B. DeMille, Walt Disney, Samuel Goldwyn, Hal Roach, and Max Sennett. I'm noticing some female names on that list. I'm noticing that there aren't any.
I was just going to say, the ladies were not included to this party.
Suggestions for potential Walk of Fame honorees were sent to the chamber, and sometimes as many as 150 names per week in that
Wow.
initial sweep.
Well, on August 15th, 1958, the Chamber and the city unveiled a total of 8 initial star honorees to be placed on Hollywood Boulevard and Highland. These names included Olive Borden, who was an actress from the silent era and early talkies. She was known as the Joy Girl. Also, actor Ronald Colman, who we've talked about a few times on this podcast. Silent comedy star Louise Fazenda. Preston Foster, actor I really, really love. Actor Burt Lancaster, film director and writer Edward Sedgwick, character actor Ernest Torrance, and actress Joanne Woodward.
The decision to present 8 stars at one time with this honor was an attempt to get people, fans, excited about the project. So construction for the full walk didn't begin until February 8th, 1960. So you had that initial ceremony of 8, then they began the construction of the walk, and they had a groundbreaking ceremony featuring actresses Linda Darnell and Gigi Perot, and silent screen star Francis X. Bushman and character actor Charles Coburn.
On March 28, 1960, the first star was laid in the newly erected portion of the Walk of Fame to director-producer Stanley Kramer. He's known for directing The Defiant One from 58, Inherit the Wind, 60, Judgment at Nuremberg, 1961, and my favorite, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, 1967. His star is near the intersection of Hollywood and Gower. And interesting, a lot of people think that Joanne Woodward's star was the first, and it's erroneous. I think they think that because she was the first celebrity to be photographed at her star ceremony.
Yes.
So we'll clear that up.
Yeah. Now, as work progressed, the walk was officially dedicated on November 23rd, 1960, coinciding with the Hollywood Christmas Parade. The walk was completed in the spring of 1961 with a total of 1,558 stars.
That's a lot of stars.
It is a lot of stars. Once it was completed, the Chamber of Commerce set up rules moving forward. And those rules detailed, number one, who would be eligible for a star, number two, a procedure to process the candidates, and then number three, a plan to finance the cost, right?
Which we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
Just hold on to your hat.
Yeah, because you've got to create the plaque, and then you've got to install it, and then you've got to have the ceremony and all those things.
Well, this took several years, so there was quite a gap between Stanley Kramer receiving his star and the next star added, which was on December the 11th, 1968, which honored producer Richard D. Zanuck, son of famed 20th Century Fox head Darryl F. Zanuck. Richard D. Zanuck's star is right in front of the Chinese Theater. Now, since 1968, star ceremonies have been held regularly. In 78, the Walk of Fame was listed as a Los Angeles Historical Cultural Monument.
Well, 1980 was kind of a key year for the Walk of Fame. This was the year that the Chamber honored entertainer Johnny Grant with a star in the category of television. If you don't know who Johnny Grant was, he began his career as a radio personality and television producer, and he appeared in small roles in a few films, perhaps most memorably as television host Ed Harrison in White Christmas.
Right.
He had this profound love of Hollywood and a passion to keep the legacy and the magic of Hollywood alive. In fact, he was also called a master of self-promotion. And that's kind of really what he did for most of his career.
And it served the Walk of Fame very well.
It really did. He created, for his own star, he created this extravagant ceremony for the unveiling. And the Chamber of Commerce took notice, and they asked Johnny to chair the Walk of Fame committee, which he did for nearly 30 years from 1980 until his death in 2008.
Now, I've had the wonderful opportunity to meet Johnny Grant several times, and he was such a character.
Yes.
He was out of central casting.
Yeah.
Jolly, jovial, had such a passion for Hollywood and Hollywood's history. I just loved him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he really did more for that Walk of Fame than any one individual, I think.
I think he would be a big fan of this podcast.
I think so. Well, under Johnny Grant's leadership, he ended up adding a fifth category of live theater in 1984, and he also solved the problem of running out of space by creating a second row of stars on the sidewalk that would alternate with the existing stars. More than anything, though, he made the Walk of Fame a must-see tourist spot and the ceremony surrounding the unveiling a wonderful spectacular. He was present and served as the master of ceremony at over 500 new stars on the Walk of Fame.
Well, the Chamber of Commerce really credits him with transforming the Walk of Fame into this international icon. He served as the honorary mayor of Hollywood, in which capacity he was often present at other Hollywood community functions, and he also produced the Hollywood Christmas Parade.
Which I love, the Hollywood Christmas Parade. Where else can you see Lee Merriweather and Ernest Borgnine on a float?
Right. Oh, well, he transformed this kind of hokey local parade into a nationally broadcast event. I always thought it was hokey, even when it was nationally
me too,
broadcast.
but I loved it.
But it's kind of charming.
It's fun.
In 2002, an intersection just north of Hollywood Boulevard and Highland Avenue was named Johnny Grant Way.
As it should be.
Yep.
On February the 1st, 1994, the Walk of Fame was extended one block west from Sycamore to La Brea on Hollywood Boulevard. February the 1st is also significant as the anniversary of the founding of Hollywood in 1887. 30 more stars were added in 1994, and among them were Sophia Loren, who was honored with a 2,000th star.
Additional categories were added later. As we mentioned, under Johnny Grant's leadership, the live performance category was added in 84. That symbol is a comedy tragedy mask. Sports entertainment was added in 2021.
Interesting.
That symbol is an athletic trophy. The first male athlete awarded a star was NFL star turned TV journalist Michael Strahan in 2023, and the first female athlete was tennis star Billie Jean King in 2025, this year.
Now, new stars continue to be added on an average of 2 stars every month. And in fact, you can check out the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce website. You can find out dates and information about upcoming ceremonies. And if you haven't gone to one and you are able to, it's really fun. They have their fancy friends come and talk about them. It's really cool. And plus, where else can you see, a star getting their due?
Well, Well, before we get into how you can get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, I think it's time for this week's Hollywood Pop Quiz.
And the pop quiz question of the day, one of the requirements to having a star on the Walk of Fame is A, you must be nominated, B, you must agree to it, C, you must pay for it, and D, you got to show up to the ceremony.
Yes.
Who is the only celebrity to be a no-show at their own ceremony?
Great question. Oh, I can't wait to hear the answer to that.
It won't surprise you.
We'll be back with more about the Hollywood Walk of Fame after this.
All right, Steve and Ann are back in costume and getting a quick change, but first another stop on the Hollywood tour. Hard to believe, but there are stories about the Hollywood Walk of Fame that neither Steve nor Nan had time to tell. So here's one of them. Believe it or not, those stars on those sidewalks get pretty grimy pretty fast. Picture all of those tourist shoes walking back and forth in all 4 seasons of the year. Now, the city of Hollywood does steam clean those sidewalks year-round, but to some people, that isn't enough. There are hordes of dedicated fans who take up the task of cleaning their favorite celebrity star. It's an act of love and respect. Many fans feel a personal connection to the celebrity, and they want to honor their legacy. There's a real group of people called the Star Polishers. They've been known to adopt stars and clean them regularly. These volunteers often arrive on the first Saturday of each month armed with buckets of towels, brushes, and other cleaning supplies. They spend hours scrubbing and polishing the brass and terrazzo stars. Among the oddest questions these people get from tourists is this: are the celebrities buried under their stars? They politely answer no. Lucille Ball has a whole group of devoted fans who always come clean her star regularly. She's at 6436 Hollywood Boulevard. Another star with fans who regularly polish their star, he writes the songs. It's Barry Manilow at 6233 Hollywood Boulevard. The Barry's Buffers are a fan group led by a woman named Rose Bitters and her daughter Jeannie. I know this sounds like a euphemism for something dirty, but they've been polishing Manilow's star for over 14 years, hours every month to ensure it stays shiny. Looks like he made it. And now, back to Steve and Ann from Beneath the Hollywood Sign.
Welcome back, everybody. Before we get further into the history of the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a big shout out to the Listener of the Week. This week, we honor Lorna Dopolito Walsh. Thank you, Lorna, for all the likes, all the shares, all the comments. We really appreciate you.
Thank you, Lorna. Now we're going to dive into how you can get a star on the Walk of Fame. You already talked about the fact that the star has to agree, right? Has to be nominated. And if chosen, they have to pay for the ceremony. The ceremony currently costs $85,000.
Wow.
And the application fee, which I'm assuming is non-refundable, maybe it goes toward the $85,000 if you get the star.
Maybe.
It's $275.
Just to apply.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
And how many people apply and don't get accepted each year?
I bet a lot.
That is just money off the top for them.
Yep.
In the beginning, the Motion Picture Producers Association did research on who should be nominated for a star. So subjective, though.
Yeah, it really
The research went back as far as 1912 and included not only featured stars, but also comedians of the old two-reeler days, top films through the years, and producers and directors.
Later, a secret 5-member committee voted on applications using criteria such as, which makes sense, longevity in the entertainment industry, and contributions made to the show business community. Currently, committee members meet each June and vote in an average of 20 new stars. That's according to the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. Posthumous nominations are accepted no sooner than 5 years after a person's death, and there's only one posthumous award granted annually. I did not know that.
And I wish there were more, because there's so many people who've passed who don't have a star that should.
Yeah. Once accepted, the star being honored has 5 years to schedule a ceremony. And if you're living, as you mentioned in the question, you have to show up in person.
Celebrities who are awarded stars, they don't usually get to choose the location of their star.
Yeah.
It's usually up to the chamber's discretion. However, they do try to honor certain requests. For example, the chamber honored Carol Burnett's request to have her star placed in front of the old Warner movie theater, where years earlier she was fired for suggesting a couple of patrons that they should wait until the last 10 minutes of Strangers on a Train was over so as not to spoil the ending for them. Well, the boss got mad and fired her, so she said, I want my star in front of that theater where I got fired. I love that.
that.
Another good example of this is Married with Children star Ed O'Neill. His star star was humorously placed in front of a shoe store in honor of his character, who of course was a shoe salesman. And the chamber also honored Allison Janney's request to have her star on the corner of Gower and Hollywood, because when she first came to Hollywood, she lived on Gower Street.
Oh, that's a great reason.
I know. And finally, and this is my favorite, Jay Leno wanted his star at the approximate location where he was arrested for vagrancy when he was a young, struggling comedian.
I love that.
I think it was at Hollywood and Highland, actually.
Yeah. Well, there have been a number of special stars given that have been awarded to either events or to companies. Among them, and we talked about this in one of our tour stops, on July 20th, 1973, the 4th anniversary of the 1969 Apollo 11 mission, the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce honored the U.S. astronauts who landed on the moon with a uniquely designed special award in the category of television as a tribute to the first televised walk on the moon. The award is a specially designed star, so it's not like the other
very
stars.
Different.
One on each corner of the intersection of Hollywood Boulevard and Vine Street in Hollywood. The astronauts' stars are unique because their names are written on a symbol of the moon, which is so cool.
Love it.
It's obviously perfectly round, not star-shaped, and the plaque contains the names of Commander Neil Armstrong, Lunar Module Pilot Edwin Aldrin Jr., and Command Module Pilot Michael Collins. It also includes the date of the first moon landing, as I said, July 20th, 1969, and the name of the mission, Apollo 11. The moons are in silver and gray terrazzo circles rimmed in brass on a square pink terrazzo background with the television emblem inlaid at the top of each circle. And I did not realize this, but the astronauts were honored again on July 20th, 1999, when their stars were rededicated to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the moon landing.
How cool is that?
Yeah, that would have been a cool one to go to.
I know. Well, celebrities aren't the only people with stars. And these are some of the more interesting stars, I think, on the Walk of Fame.
Interesting.
Did you know that the Los Angeles Times has a star on the Walk of Fame?
Had no idea.
And the industry newspapers, The Hollywood Reporter and Variety, have stars.
That kind of makes sense.
The Los Angeles Police Department has a star. And this is my favorite. Even fictional characters have been honored. And these include the Munchkins, Godzilla, Mickey Mouse, the Muppets, with Big Bird and Kermit having their own stars.
Of course.
Pee Wee Herman, as portrayed by Paul Rubens, and animated characters such as Shrek and Snow White and The Simpsons and the Rugrats. So it's not just for live celebrities.
Yeah. I think the oddest star, though.
Oh, without a doubt.
Okay. It was given in 2007 to Victoria's Secret Angels. You know, those lingerie models?
Is that still a thing?
I don't think it is anymore. So that one is the close second. Maybe this one is even worse, this next one. Absolute Vodka was awarded a Friend of the Walk of Fame star in 2008. Now, the LA Times reported this was strictly a financial decision since the walk was in need of refurbishments, and Absolute Vodka was willing to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to become their quote-unquote friend.
So can a star be bought? Apparently so.
Yes.
How do we buy a star? Of the stars on the Walk of Fame, and I find this interesting, 47% have been awarded in the motion picture category, 24% in television, 17% in audio recording or music, 10% in radio, and fewer than 2% in theater live performance, and fewer than 1% in sports entertainment.
All right. Who has the most stars on the Walk of Fame? I bet you already knew this.
I did know this.
This would be Gene Autry. He's the only person to be awarded stars in 5 categories: film, television, radio, live performance, and music. That's remarkable.
If he had just played basketball.
I know, dang it. And then he would have, well, I guess we could have done it posthumously then.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, also receiving multiple stars was Bob Hope and Tony Martin, the singer-songwriter. They each have 4 stars on the Walk of Fame, and people with 3 stars include Frank Sinatra, Danny Kaye, Dean Martin, and Jack Benny. Interestingly, only 2 women have 3 stars, and they include actress, singer, TV personality Dinah Shore and actress-singer Gail Storm, who's probably best known for the TV show My Little Margie.
There's controversy, right, over some of these stars.
Oh, yes.
There's always controversy in Hollywood. You're going to be surprised to learn that some of the biggest stars in Hollywood do not have stars on the Walk of Fame. Now, this is because, as we've mentioned, not only does the celebrity have to be nominated, but they have to agree to the ceremony and somebody has to pay for it. Nominees must have at least 5 years of history in their field before even being considered, which means that some of our biggest stars today may not even be eligible. Over the years, there have been numerous controversies about who is awarded a star and who isn't. Among the most combative was the fight over Charlie Chaplin's inclusion. Chaplin had been unanimously voted into that initial group of 500 people. But his name was removed after business owners complained. Essentially, after everything I've read about this, I think it's because they felt he should be disqualified because they didn't like his politics.
Which is why he took refuge in Switzerland, yeah.
Chaplin's son, Charlie Chaplin Jr., sued and demanded $400,000 in damages because his father was not chosen as an honoree. That case was dismissed in 1960. Chaplin did finally get his star in 1972, the same year that he won his honorary Academy Award that we've talked about on this podcast. The difficulties surrounding Chaplin's inclusion reportedly contributed to the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce's decision to initially deny a star to Paul Robeson in 1978.
Wow, I'm sure that was political as well.
Yeah, so that backlash, it finally did lead to him receiving his star in 1979.
Now, in 2002, boxer Muhammad Ali was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. However, for the first time, the star was not placed on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Why, you ask? Well, we're going to tell you. Instead, it was placed on a wall at the Dolby Theater. It was reported that Muhammad Ali didn't want people who don't respect him to step on his name. He was quoted as saying, "He bears the name of our beloved Prophet Muhammad," which means peace be upon him, and it is impossible that I allow people to trample over his name.
Wow.
So good for you, Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
There are currently 2,812 stars on the Walk of Fame. The number increases regularly with the new ceremonies every year, and we talked about not every star has a star. Who are some of those that don't?
Kind of amazing. Julia Roberts, Oprah Winfrey.
Surprising. Al Pacino, George Clooney.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
I know, Robert De Niro.
Right. And Prince, our beloved Minnesota boy, refused the honor twice, not because he said it was ridiculous or anything. He just said he wasn't ready for that. And so he never accepted the award. He is now scheduled to receive a posthumous star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame this very year, 2025.
Oh, good. He deserves that. There's also a few stars who some people feel should be removed, maybe due to controversy surrounding them.
Yeah.
But the chamber has made a very solid commitment. Once you receive a star, it becomes a part of the fabric of the history of Hollywood, and it cannot be removed.
Right. I love some of these fun facts that we're going to dive into that you found.
Fun facts. I love fun
facts.
facts.
Yeah.
We were just kind of digging around and seeing, what's interesting about the Hollywood Walk of Fame. What are some things that people may not know? And one thing that I found interesting was only 2 costume designers have ever received a star. The first was 8-time Academy Award winner Edith Head, and the second was the first African-American to win an Oscar for costume design, Ruth E. Carter. Also, only 2 novelists, Sidney Sheldon and Ray Bradbury.
There are 4 dogs.
There should be more.
There should be more.
There should be
I think
more.
Sally should have a star, a posthumous
Myrna.
star, and Myrna should have a
Yes.
star. And we could justify that, I'm sure. We just need that fee.
For $275.
Right? Yes. There are 4 dogs, Lassie, Rin Tin Tin, Strongheart, and Snoopy, of course.
A couple of stars, like the ones for Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Dick Van Dyke, were installed with their names misspelled.
Okay, who does
How
that?
awful.
That's
You've
horrible.
got one job. But, they eventually were replaced and corrected,
Okay,
thank
that's
goodness.
good.
The youngest person to receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, any guesses, any takers?
Tatum O'Neal?
Good guess. Lens, any?
Johnny Whitaker.
Oh, from Sigmund and the Sea Monsters and Family Affair. Nope. Good guess, though. It was actually, and she's a friend of the podcast, Hattie McCormick.
Of course,
She was
Hattie McCormick.
Only 15 at the time of her star ceremony.
Wow.
Who was the oldest person to receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame? And if you've been reading the news in the last month or two, you should know this because it just happened. It was actually Asian actress Lisa Liu, who was 98 at the time of her induction.
Wow.
Yeah. Very cool.
She looks amazing.
Yeah.
Carmen Miranda and character actor Monty Woolley's stars mistakenly have the symbol for television on it, and they were inducted for motion picture category.
Again, oops. And those have not been corrected.
I was going to say, they've got to correct that.
Yeah.
Who thinks of those two people as
Nobody.
television? No.
Exactly. Well, this is one of my favorites. Film and television actor Don Haggerty's star originally displayed the first name Dan mistakenly.
Yes.
Well, mistake was later fixed, but years later, the television actor Dan Haggerty, who played Grizzly Adams on TV, we all remember.
Yeah.
He also received a star. So there was this confusion that eventually sprouted this urban legend that Dan Haggerty was the only honoree to have a star removed from the Walk of Fame.
And he didn't.
He did not.
No.
They just changed the other name to the correct spelling of Don.
There are a few stars that have been stolen.
Oh, these are my favorites.
During a construction project in 2000, a construction worker made off with the stars of James Stewart and Kirk Douglas.
No, not James and Kirk.
I know. So both of those stars were recovered. Gene Autry had one of his 5 stars stolen. And I love this one. In 2005, thieves used a concrete saw to uproot Gregory Peck's star. It was never recovered.
Atticus.
I know, but the chamber did replace it. Well, I love learning all these details about the Walk of Fame. If you want to find out if your favorite star is honored on the Walk of Fame or where a particular star is located, check out the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce website. It includes a map and details about the stars that are honored, and it also includes the schedule for upcoming Walk of Fame ceremonies. We'll include that website in our show notes.
So cool.
So I think it's time for the answer to this week's Hollywood Pop Quiz, and I have been just on bated breath wondering who this person was.
Well, of course, the question was, who's the only celebrity to be a no-show at their own star ceremony?
And you were hinting that it's somebody we would not be surprised didn't show up.
You would not, at least I would not be surprised.
Okay, all right. Who was it?
It was Barbara Streisand.
No.
Babs did not show up. Yep.
Babs, did they do it?
They did it. They went ahead and had the ceremony without her.
I thought that they couldn't.
I guess they did. But interestingly enough, several years later, her husband, James Brolin, gets a
Yes.
star. She shows up.
Well, I wonder if she just had it mixed up in her calendar.
I know. Fire that assistant, Babs.
Yes. Well, thanks everybody for listening. We would love it if you would give us a 5-star review wherever you listen to this podcast. And please follow us on social media. Our handle is @FromBeneathTheHollywood You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and you can watch the podcast on YouTube.
And we love your emails. Please keep them coming. You can email us at info@FromBeneathTheHollywoodSign.com.
That's this week's view.
From Beneath the Hollywood Sign.
You've been listening to From Beneath the Hollywood Sign with Steve Cubine and Ann McNamara, the podcast that celebrates amazing stories of Tinseltown from its golden era. Join us next week for another episode and learn something else about Hollywood you probably never knew. Take a moment and give us a 5-star rating and a positive review, and tell your friends about us too. It'll help grow the podcast. Visit Steve's website at FromBeneathTheHollywoodSign.com. The executive producers are Steve Cubine and Nan McNamara. Executive producer and post-production supervisor Lindsay Schnebley. Associate producer and researcher John Price Ritchie. This podcast is part of the Airwave Media Podcast Network. Visit airwavemedia.com to listen and subscribe to their other fine shows like The Box of Oddities and The Shallow End with Schnebley and Toth. Copyright 2025. All rights reserved. That's a wrap.